Today I'm going to show you how to diagnose and repair an air conditioning problem. The problem with this car is that the customer was driving along, the AC was working perfectly, and they was starting to climb up a hill, and all of a sudden the AC shut off and it just stopped. So I'm going to show you what to do step by step to figure out what the problem is, whether it's a leak in the system or it's a failure of a hose or what the problem is. So I'm going to bring you in, I'm going to show you, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to connect up an AC machine to it, and you want to check the pressures on the high side and the low side just to make sure that there's freon inside the compressor. If there is no freon in the compressor, there's a switch on there that's actually going to shut the compressor clutch off and keep it from circulating what's left inside the system, and it'll keep the compressor from turning on if there's no pressure or low pressure. So we're going to take step one before we get to step two. We'll figure out what's going on. So first thing we're going to do is check the pressures in the system. So let's get up there and let's do that. Everything is color coded. Blue, of course, being low pressure, or the size of the fitting right here tells you if it's high side or low side. There's different sizes. All right, so that's the one. The second one is back on this particular car, back in the corner over here. All right, and you can see this is the low side right here. So the low side is smaller, the high side is larger. So let's connect up and we'll see what the pressures are. Let's see what our pressure looks like here. So now looking at the pressure here, now obviously if you don't have a machine like this, you can just get the gauges so you can actually check the pressure, but with this pressure in here now, that should be adequate to keep it, to have the AC system turn on. So let's go in the vehicle and we'll start it up and we'll see what happens. Now it's a little noisy, I know that, but as you can see, the gauges actually did not move at all. They stayed exactly where it was before we had the vehicle running. So now the next thing we're going to do is you can hear that cooling fan down there is running. You can hear how loud that is, so we know that the cooling fan is working for the condenser. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look down at the compressor. Let me get something, I'm going to point it out to you. Okay, now obviously I'm going to tell you, be careful, don't put your fingers in there because you can lose your fingers if you get caught in that fan belt. So be very careful when you're working down here. But you can see this is the drive belt, and the drive belt is actually turning the outer part of the compressor. So you can see right in here, this is the inner part of the compressor. I don't know if you can see that, but that's not rotating. You see how that's standing still? That's not rotating at all. So we have two things going on. Either we have no power going to this wire right here, or we have no ground coming back through this wire over here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect this connector right here, and we're going to come in here with a test light or a power probe or whatever you have, and we're going to check to see if we have power here, and we're going to check over here to make sure we have a ground over here. So let me grab the power probe and we'll come right back. Now, the way a power probe works is that you have this light here. This will tell you when you have a good ground. It'll turn green when it's a ground, and it'll turn red when it's positive. So we're just going to check in here right now to make sure we have positive. As you can see, it lights up red. That means we have power going to the clutch. And now we're just going to come down over here and we're going to check our ground. And you see how it turns green? We have a good ground to the clutch itself, so we have power and we have ground. The clutch itself should be working, so there is a problem in the clutch. Okay, so as you can see, we have power and we have ground. We also have freon inside the system, which means that this system should, this compressor should be turning. The freon is full, it has power, and it has ground. So we know there's a failure in the clutch assembly itself. We're just going to make a phone call now to find out if it's less expensive to replace just the clutch, or the cost of compressors have come down drastically. It may just be more cost efficient just to change the entire compressor. But we're going to get some prices. We'll talk to the customer and let them know what's going on, and then we'll see what we're going to do. Most likely, we are going to change the compressor. So, all right, let me make a couple of phone calls, talk to the customer, and we'll come right back. So the first thing we're going to do is we have our machine connected up now. We need to empty out the system. You cannot take the lines off the AC system with it charged. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over and we're going to discharge the system. So I'll show you how that goes. Okay, so now we have the system emptied out. We have 0.59 ounces of Freon that came out of it. So we know that this system was actually low too, because down underneath here you'll see where it calls for maximum is 0.99 and the minimum is 0.77, so we're slightly low. So all right, let's remove the compressor and we're going to continue. First thing we're going to do now is we're going to come down here and we need to take that drive belt, or fan belt in this case, off of the compressor. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to come over here to the tensioner right here, and we're going to release the tension on this belt, and we're going to pull the belt off the car. So let me do that, and we'll continue. Okay, so now we just put a ratchet onto the tensioner, and we just pull on it and release the tension on the drive belt. Just push down on it, and then we'll take the belt off the compressor, and we can just let the tensioner go. And we can just put the belt off to the side like this for now. And then we're going to come down on top of the compressor, and I'll show you how to remove the compressor from the vehicle next. After we have the system totally emptied out, we have no pressure left in there at all, we're going to come back over here and we're going to disconnect the AC lines right here on top of the compressor. This one and this one. I just want to point this out. There was a clip actually holding this cable to the line. I actually disconnected that to get this out of the way, so that way we can pull this out we can move the lines out of the way and not interfere with that. So we're going to take out this 10 millimeter and this 10 millimeter, and we're going to pull these two lines out. We're going to disconnect that, probably a 13 millimeter here, and then there's probably going to be two of them on the bottom as well. So, all right, let me get started and see how it goes. Now, whenever you crack a line open, even though we know that this is totally emptied out, be very careful, because sometimes you will get a little blowback through the compressor, even if it's in a vacuum. So we're going to crack these two loose, and now once we have them loose, we can take them out. You want to definitely have something that you can put your bolts in so you don't lose them. These should be the same length, but we're going to make sure. Okay, they're the same length, so it doesn't really matter. Now we're going to take the lines out of the way. Just rock them back and forth. And then we can pull it out just like this. Now we're going to put this off to the side for now. If this is going to be disconnected for an extended period of time, put a rag over it so no debris or any foreign matter gets inside it. And we'll take our next line off down the bottom. Same thing, we're just going to rotate it. And we'll pull that up as well. And that's out of the way, and now we're going to put another rag around this one. Okay, now as you can see, I tied these back pretty far. Normally I don't tie them back that far, but I just want to open it up down here so you have a better idea of what I'm doing. Alright, so let me get in here with a couple of wrenches, and we're going to take out the 13 millimeter bolts. This is our AC compressor. This is the failed piece of the compressor, the clutch right here. Usually it's the electronic, the magnetic clutch that goes bad, or one of the wires or something like that. But like I said, we're going to change the entire assembly because it was a lot less expensive doing it that way for her. So, all right, let's grab the new part, and we're going to continue. Okay, so we just got our compressor. It came in, and you're going to match up, before you put it on the vehicle, match it up to make sure that everything lines up exactly as it's supposed to. As you can see, this compressor is pretty much exactly the same. The adapters where they connect onto the engine itself are perfectly lined up. It has the plug, which we make sure is the exact same plug, which it is. The grooves on the belt, make sure it has the correct amount of grooves, and that's it. So we're pretty much ready to put this back in. But before we put it back in, we are gonna, you see this piece right here? This piece needs to be taken off of here. We have to take it off of here, and we need to put it back in over here. So when we pull this out, there's going to be an O-ring in here, so you're going to see me take it apart, and we are going to change that O-ring. We never use an old O-ring over again. All right, I just want to bring this out to your attention. Also, this system here, always check in the box to make sure. This compressor comes with pre-measured oil in it. We don't drain it, we don't adjust it, so the oil level is going to be correct already in this compressor. So, all right, let me get the Allen key to open this up. We're going to take this apart and we'll switch it over onto the new unit itself. So, all right, let's continue. Okay, so now we are going to take off this this piece right up here. We're going to make sure it's not all dirty. Make sure it's nice and clean so we don't get any grease inside of it. And now we'll just get in here with an Allen, and we'll just take it out. Not right off, but comes off. All right, make sure we clean off everything underneath the bottom right here. All right, clean off all of this grease underneath here, and now we're going to take that O-ring out, and we're going to open up our kit, and we're going to get an exact replacement. So let me grab the O-ring kit, and we'll bring it over here. Okay, now it's a matter of finding out which O-ring we need. Okay. All right, now we have the O-ring we need. We're going to put the O-ring on here. And we're going to stretch it around just like that. And now you never get greasy fingerprints on an O-ring. We're just going to move this out of the way for now, just so you know. Bring our new compressor right up here. And we are going to take this just to lubricate it. And normally I would have touched this with my gloves, but my hands are kind of a mess. So we're going to put this on here, and we're just going to turn it, and you'll feel it snap right in, like that. And now we're going to screw our Allen key back in there. You're going to screw it in by hand for now. Now we can snug this down so it's tight. You got to be very careful because you're screwing it into aluminum. You don't want to strip it out by accident. All right, and now our compressor. I want to make sure everything is nice and clean. Okay, now our compressor is ready to go back in the car. So let's put it back in the car. What we're going to do is we're going to put the compressor in. Back down where it came out. Now you see I put these back in here because I don't want the oil to spill out when I put this compressor back in. So now we're going to put the compressor down in there. I'm going to catch this bolt, and this bolt all by hand. Before I tighten them up, I'm going to make sure all three are caught, and then I'll screw them back and tighten them in. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our hoses that we previously disconnected, and we're going to take off this O-ring right here, and we're going to change these O-rings on both of these hoses right now before we put it back together. Again, I always use a scribe because this way I can hook the O-ring and take it out so we don't lose it, so we can match it up with the new O-ring that we need. So let me match this up and we'll put the new one back on there. Okay, so now we have our new O-ring. I have it soaking in oil before you put it back on there. Alright, and now we'll put this back in down the bottom, and then we're going to change the O-ring on the other hose. As tempted as you are to reuse these old O-rings, don't do it. Always change them. And we're going to soak our new one in oil as well. We'll take our line, hold it with your thumb, and just put it on just like that. And now we're going to put these back into the top of the compressor, and then we'll snug them down. We're going to take out those little plastic pieces. Remember, we got to take these out. Okay, so now we have the line that we're going to catch it in. We put the new O-ring on it, of course, as you remember. We put the line into the top of the compressor, which is catching the bolts in there right now, and then we're going to snug them in place. Okay, now we remember these bolts were are going into aluminum, so you don't want to screw it in tight. You just want to make it snug. Alright, that's it. Because remember, the O-ring is what's keeping it from leaking. This O-ring is keeping it from leaking. It doesn't matter how tight it is, that bolt is just to hold this in position. All right, so we'll put this in there now where it belongs. Okay, and now our lines are caught. Now, while I'm bring you in there, I'll show you. All right, so I got these two lines are now caught. We're going to plug in our electrical connector right here. We're going to bring it up to the side right here and plug it in. As soon as I can pull it out of there, that is. And now we're going to bring around this plug right here. I'm going to secure it out of the way on here with a clamp. And then we're going to put that drive belt back on, and we'll continue with that. So, all right. I know it's a little bit noisy, but I want to have it pumping down into a vacuum while we put this drive belt back on. Okay, now remember, we got in here with this tool just like this. I put it on here, and then we pulled it. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to get the belt on the compressor. And then we're just going to keep slight pressure here, just like that, until we can get the belt back on just the way it belongs. Okay, let me bring you in there. Alright, now as you can see, the drive belt is on the grooves the way it's supposed to be, there, and it's on its underneath here just the way it's supposed to. All of the teeth on the drive belt line up with the grooves on the pulley. Alright, so that's pretty much it. We're all ready to go. We're going to let this pump down into a vacuum now. Okay, alright, so now we have it pumped down into a vacuum. We're going to leave it sit for just a couple of minutes to make sure it doesn't lose anything. And then we'll come back and we'll charge this up. It calls for 0.99 is maximum and 7.7 is minimum, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to charge it up with the minimum first. And start it up and we'll see how the pressures are. Okay, now normal pressure is supposed to be around 30 on the low side and around 200 on the high side. So we may be a little bit higher than normal because we're in the back of the shop where it's actually pretty hot back here. There's no airflow. Alright, so that's it. We're all set. Alright, it blows out nice and cool. We are going to put the thermometer inside the vent, and we're going to take it for a test drive just to make sure it's nice and cool. Judging by how it feels coming out of the register right now, I know it's going to be okay. Obviously, we now know the compressor turns on, so the clutch was the culprit the whole time. So that's it. We get all my tools wrapped up, get my lights off of it, get all my gauges off. We're going to take it for a ride, and then it's on to the next one. That's it. We're all set. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.